Hey, and welcome to River City Online. We're excited to have you join us today. As we get started, please take a moment to say hi in the chat and let us know that you are here. Hey, and welcome to River City Online. We're excited to have you join us today. As we get started, please take a moment to say hi in the chat and let us know that you are here. We anticipate that we will experience God's presence today as we worship together. So feel free to connect with your host anytime and ask for prayer. We hope you have a great day.
Sing this out. I shall live my life in the shadow of the cross, holding fast to Christ, to my Savior and my God, trading rags of sin for the crown of righteousness. I shall live in the shadow of the cross. Stretch for me, where His blood poured out as a fragrant offering, where my Savior died, counting not the cost. Here I stand in the shadow of the cross, where my friend was mocked and shamed, where he drank the cup of wrath which bore my name, where he bore my sin so that I would not. I'm amazed in the shadow of the cross. I shall live my life in the shadow of the cross, holding fast to Christ, to my Savior and my God, trading rags of sin for the crown of righteousness. I shall live in the shadow of the cross, where my Jesus was made to bleed, where my wounds are healed and all my bonds released, where my Father found me when I was lost. How could I leave the shadow of the cross? I shall live my life in the shadow of the cross, holding fast to Christ, to my Savior and my God, trading rags of sin for the crown of righteousness. I shall live in the shadow of the cross. I survey the empty tree, where my price was paid, and by faith I am redeemed. Here all death must die for the glory of God. I shall rise with Him who triumphed at the cross. I shall live my life in the shadow of the cross, holding fast to Christ, to my Savior and my God, trading rags
cried many tears, succumbed to my fears, but I remember I've been broken, believe lies spoken, but I remember as the darkness closes in and the weight of who I've been holds within. I remember you've always been, you'll always be God above over everything, you alone on the throne. Yeah, I believe in your truth, what you say, and all you do with you alone can overcome. Yeah, I feel your nearness, and I am fearless when I remember. I feel your power in my darkest hour when I remember. I will stand and lift my eyes, and my life will testify. I remember that you've always been, you'll always be God above over everything, you alone on the throne. Yeah, I believe in your truth, what you say, and all you do, you alone I can overcome. Yeah, that you'll always been, you'll always be God above over everything, you alone on the throne. Yeah, I believe in your truth, what you say, and all you do, you alone on the throne. Yeah, yeah. When I am weak, you are stronger. I will trust in your name. When I was lost, you found me. Forever free in your grace, I'm singing out. You are worthy of praise. I'm pressing on, holding true to your way. When I am weak, you are stronger. I will trust in your name. When I was lost, you found me. Forever free in your grace, I'm singing out. You are worthy of praise. I'm pressing on, holding true to your ways. I'm pressing on, holding true to your ways. I will stand and lift my eyes, and my life will testify. I remember you'll always been, you'll always be God above over everything, you alone on the throne. Yeah, I believe in your truth, what you say, and all you do with you alone can overcome. Yeah, that you've always been, you'll always be God above over everything, you alone on the throne. Yeah, I
Hey, River City Church. This weekend, we are spending time going outside of the church walls and volunteering throughout our community. And so, we decided as an online church, we would treat you with something special. We are going to be showing you a sermon from a couple of months ago when our friend Bill Clem came and spoke at River City. We hope you enjoy and take some time this week to serve your community the best way you can. Love you. God bless.
Well, I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Pastor Bill Clem. He hails currently from Wenatchee, Washington, and so it's a beautiful place up there. You've been up there just a couple years, year and a half, but he's here from the Northwest, grew up here, and I met Bill at Western Seminary. He was one of my professors. He's pastored churches, planted churches, been doing ministry a long time. He leads the Center for Pastoral Flourishing. So one of the reasons I'm doing okay is because of Bill. Okay, he's one of the many reasons, rather, not the only reason, but and my wife, of course. And but anyway, you're gonna really enjoy Pastor Bill. So come on up and share a little bit more about yourself and share the word with us. Would you welcome him?
It is great to be with you today. You know, it's funny because I'm sure that Pastor Kevin has every one of you in his corner, you know what I mean? And he's doing well because there's a culture of encouragement. There's a culture of love. Even this morning, there's a culture of praise here, right? And so all of those things speak to flourishing our soul. And so it is great to be here. This has been a kind of a lift up for me. So I appreciate your welcoming me and the opportunity to share with you today. I want to talk to you about something that we've been singing about, and that's God's joy over us. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. So just kind of on a macro level, I was married for 31 years. My wife died of cancer. I've been remarried, so I have a wife. But when I talk about my children, she was not the mother of my children. So I have 4 children and 12 grandchildren from my first wife. And so I have my kids are a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital in Seattle, a youth pastor in West Seattle, a coder on Vashon Island, and a junior high math and science teacher in Monroe, Washington. So on Thursday, it's going to be a wild time on Thanksgiving, and I'm planning on showing up as a crazy dad. So I want to tell you a story about that my son was telling me, who's a children's pastor in West Seattle. He was trying to explain to a group of little kids gospel obedience, okay? So what he's trying to say is we want you to obey God out of love rather than out of something else, whether that's fear or obligation or duty or whatever other motivations, right? And he's trying to explain this concept to kids that are from 1st grade to 5th grade, okay? So a 5th grade boy goes, I don't understand the difference. If I obey God, what difference does it make? Why? Okay? Good question. You know, unfortunately, I'm still asking that. And so he's asking that question, and then this little 2nd grade girl, she goes, can I take a shot at answering that? And he goes, yeah, go for it. And she says, so we have a dog, and our dog likes to pee on the deck. And my dad hates it when he pees on the deck. So what my dad does is he takes the dog out, takes him to the yard, lets him down. The dog goes to the bathroom in our yard. He picks up the dog, brings him back in the house, and then we all give him an applause. And she said, our dog is starting to pee in the yard because she likes the applause, you know, more than peeing on the deck. And what I want us to do today is realize that God is for us, and he's applauding us, and he's saying, you don't need to somehow just manage. You don't even need to just do your best. You can actually be in relationship with me and understand I'm for you. I delight over you. You give me joy. That's just mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean, we're singing songs where we're going, really, there's a God who suffers, a God who bleeds? I'm just amazed that there's a God who takes joy in us. You know, he's got everything at his disposal. He has no limits, and yet he delights in you. He takes the time to watch your life and work in your life and invite you to participate with him. I just think it's kind of amazing. So I think how we view somebody's view of us, okay, affects how we behave. And I think if you think God is somebody you've got to please or negotiate with or bargain for blessing, then you're going to be in kind of a miserly little negotiation relationship with him. But if you know he loves you and he cheers for you and he sings over you, hopefully that invites you to a completely different freedom and experience than just performance. So I want to look at this one verse with you in Zephaniah. Okay, so if we can just kind of like see that verse up there. So the Lord your God is in your midst, the mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. I think this is the only verse in the Bible that says God sings. And look at the subject. It's us. You know, when we sing, we get to sing about him. And when he sings about us because we're both supposed to be in love with each other. And so that's the invitation he gives. And so if we could just kind of look at that for a minute. The first thing it says that is God is in your midst. Okay? I want to look at the idea that there's a practiced presence, but there's also a promised presence. God promises his presence to us. So I've listed several different examples there. Moses is being asked by God, hey, I want you to go lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. And Moses is great. He goes, okay, send my brother. And God's saying, no, I want you to go. And he's going, I can't do it. I stutter. And God's saying, I will go with you. That was supposed to be the ultimate trump card. He was supposed to be able to say, you can't come up with a reason not to do it if I'm going with you. I'm going with you. You know, you look at Joshua. Joshua's got an amazing job. He has to take over the pastorate from Moses. Okay? His congregation's over 2 million people, and there's got to be some people who are going, oh, he's not the right guy. You know, we should have had a committee and a search committee for this. How come we just let him get appointed? I mean, he's got all these things, plus the idea that Moses was this incredible guy. And in chapter 1 of Joshua, God says to him 3 or 4 times, don't be afraid, but be courageous. Don't be afraid. Be courageous. And then he realizes, kind of like when we were singing, when I'm in the presence of God, I know who I'm not, and I know I can't. Those were the things that are going through Joshua's mind. And God says, okay, here's the deal. I will be with you like I was with Moses. And that was to put him at peace. Of going, you don't do it alone. You don't have to do it, and I'm sitting back giving you a grade. I'm with you. You're participating with me. We look at the whole idea of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is an interesting guy because he gets called to be a prophet when he's a teenager, and that's his first objection. I'm only a youth. I can't speak to them. They won't listen to me. And God says, don't let them look down on your youth. Speak well of me, and I will be with you. And then the last one up there is from Matthew 28, where Jesus is ascending into heaven, and it's his last commission on his disciples. And he says, go into all the world and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them all I've commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, to the very end of the age. And I have a pastor friend who's afraid of flying, and he goes, Bill, that says, lo, I am with you always. But he's saying, I am with you always. Take it to the bank. God's in our midst. That's how this starts. And then it not only says that he's in our midst, but how do we practice that presence? How do we not just have him here? How do we practice it? You know? So there are several times in the Bible where this haunting phrase comes out. They didn't know the Spirit had departed. You know, Samson, ready to stand against the Philistines when Delilah keeps chipping away at what's his secret of strength. And when she finally cut his hair, he stood up to oppose the Philistines like before. And he says he was unaware that the Spirit had departed. You know, Saul, the same thing. He was unaware that God had removed himself from Saul. And what this passage is inviting us to is to practice that in our midst. Not just be aware of it, but to actually practice. What would that look like? So I'm just going to get kind of granular here for a minute. Sometimes I pray with an empty chair next to me. And I do that practicing that God's in the chair. You know, and I want to listen to him, and I want to ask him, and I want to converse with him. Other times I just want to tell him how great he is and thank him for being in my life. There are times when we not only become aware of God that way, we can also, in a sense, limit our focus. Have you ever taken a picture with your phone, and then when you look at the picture, you go, that's not what I was just seeing. How did this happen? You know, you and I have ability to limit and edit our focus, and we don't even know we're doing it. So there's a whole crowd here, and I'm looking at Pastor Kevin, you know, and now I'm looking at this woman, and now I'm looking in the back, you know, and it's like the rest of it kind of gets blurry, or at least fades out from focus, right? God invites us, can you focus? Can you practice my presence? Can you not be surprised by it, but enter into it? And then I think there are some rhythms, just regular practices, whether that's starting your day with God and getting reoriented to his priorities, whether that happens to be setting. So for me, I can have a great quiet time with God, and that lasts till about 10 or 10:30, and then I'm carnal again. And so I have to put a timer on my clock. So at 9 and 11, at 1, at 3, and at 5, I take a 10-minute break to just listen to God in prayer. Okay? I've been busy. I haven't been paying attention. We're back here. You're in my midst. How do I practice your presence? And that's been very helpful for me, just to have something like that, as simple as that. One more, I guess I'd like to just kind of suggest is that you practice gratitude. That you're just grateful. Okay, that you take the time on an inventory of a day and just say, God, there were some amazing things that we did today. Thank you for participating with me. Thank you for inviting me to participate with you. How do we follow up on some of those things? And just listening to him. And what I mean by that is that becomes a relational connection, doesn't it? You know, you're not an employee, and you're not trying to earn a place. Jesus has already said to you, I'm leaving to go prepare a place for you. We have a place. It's being prepared for us. So we have this whole idea, there's a God in our midst. Let's practice that, becoming aware of it. You know, I do some marital counseling, and every once in a while, a wife typically will say her husband's not present. And I'm going, he's right here. She goes, he's not. His body is. He's not here. Unfortunately, you know what I mean, okay? We can start to be that way almost with God. He's there and we're not. And we don't sense he's there, so we don't check in and go, I'm going to be present with you, not just running parallel tracks with you. Okay? So then it says that he is mighty to save. Okay? And I think most of us understand that God is mighty to save, that he has the power to rescue us. But I don't think very often that we think about what it means that we've been saved. God saves us from something. He saves us from our sin. He saves us from our selfishness. He saves us from a life that would be lived without him. But he saves us for something. He saves us for a relationship. He saves us for friendship. He saves us because we are interesting to him. He loves us. Okay? So just the whole idea that he's inviting us to somehow celebrate him in our midst. Okay? So now let's look at the next phrase that says, he will rejoice over you with gladness. Phenomenal. God rejoices over you. Not you rejoicing over God, but the reason he invites us to do that is because that's what God does. When you rejoice over him, you are imaging him back to him. You rejoice over him because he's rejoiced over you. That's imaging God. And that's what you and I have been designed to do, is image God. That's what we're called in Genesis 1. He created us in the image of God. so that we might image him, so that we might reflect him. So if we were to look at this idea that he rejoices over us, there's a sociology professor at UCLA. His name is Alan Shore, and he's done a lot of research on joy. And his down on the bottom shelf definition of joy is your face lights up. Okay? So he said, you walk into a room, there's a 6-month-old, you look at the 6-month-old, and you're just, trying to light up. And when the little 6-month-old looks at you, they light up. He goes, that's joy. Now, I want you to understand, there's over 100 verses in the Bible that say, may his face shine upon you. That's God's joy. What a sociologist at UCLA has discovered by watching people interact with babies, God has said, they're just imaging me. That's what I do for you. You light up my face, and when you see my face lit up, it lights your face up, and we can experience joy together. God has joy over us. And then he rejoices over us. So he keeps loading the joy vault so that it's never empty. He joys over us and rejoices over us and rejoices over us and rejoices over us. So when we come to this idea that he will rejoice over us, it's important that we take the time to realize that. So if there is a time, like, let's just say this next week, you get the opportunity to express tenderness or love to somebody. Let's say you have a family reunion at Thanksgiving, or let's say that somebody invites you to their house, and it's a very generous offer, and you're there and you're able to express appreciation for that. That is you being able to let God house you and tell that other person, I delighted in you inviting this person. Thank you. See how easy it is for us to unleash God on one another? That his joy, in a sense, is contagious. And then it says he will quiet you with his love. So most of us have had that sobbing moment and then somebody hugs us. Most of us have had that opportunity to quiet somebody else who's just distraught. I love this picture. It's painted by Rembrandt. Go ahead and click that, I think. Yeah, it's a picture of the prodigal son returning. You see the dad with his hands on the prodigal son's shoulders. And, it's interesting because you've got the older brother and even maybe a couple of religious leaders in the background going, he should be punished. He shouldn't get the celebration. What are you doing not making him feel a little guilty before you make him feel all this love? He's going, you guys aren't his father. My heart is delighted that he's returned. I lost my son and now he's found. And I can't contain myself. I can't put that on a trajectory of hopefully he'll say, I'm sorry. I'll say, you're forgiven. And I just got to hug him. That's how God feels about you. We are called, Jesus told that story because we're the prodigal. And he's saying, here's the Father's heart towards you. That he longs for you to come home, and he delights that you are home, and he wants a celebration because you are home. But I don't think I can hear it sometimes because of all the other noises that are in my life. All the ways I don't feel loved. All the ways I don't feel like I've measured up. All the ways that I still have things to do that I think will make me complete. And God's saying, I make you complete. Those are things that we may do together, we may not do them together. But what I want from you is you, not your stuff. I can create anybody to do what you think you're on earth to do. But I've created you to be on earth to get caught loving me. And if somebody catches you loving me, they're going to want to know what I'm like. You get to image me to them. And my plan is that that's how they're going to fall in love with me, is because changed lives change lives. So he's changing our lives as a poster to someone else. Lives change when you know me. That's the invitation. So if we look at this a little bit more, he quiets us with his love. He goes on to say, and he rejoices over us with singing. And that's kind of like the big deal, right? He will rejoice over you with singing. So I don't know if you have a song, maybe as a couple, maybe as a person. So my first wife and I, we worked at this camp, and I went away to college in Chicago, and she lived in Portland, Oregon, where the camp was. And I was driving a 1950 panel truck, which broke down in Caldwell, Idaho. And so I had to hitchhike home. I got a ride on a milk truck, a guy stopping at every dairy farm. I hitchhiked home. My brother-in-law drove out with his pickup, and we pulled the panel truck home to fix it. What was interesting to me was that, I'd already said goodbye to my girlfriend, and now I was home again. And so I went and I saw her, and I said, hey, I was listening to this song on my cassette deck, and I want you to hear it. And it was a song by Hall & Oates, and it just basically says, if I had known you better then, I would have said I loved you. When I first saw you. If I'd known you better then, I would have said I love you. And so I said, that's how I feel. And I had never told her I loved her, and that was kind of like the song that said I love you to her. And so that kind of became our song, So she passes away. I meet this other lady. We are going to get married, and so we start listening for music for the wedding. And she's kind of listening to trumpets and orchestra. And I'm going, no, this isn't going to work for me at all, She goes, well, what do you want to listen to? I go, let's listen to some Van Morrison. So we turn on Van Morrison, and there's a song called The Other Side of the Road. And it basically says there's a dark side of the road, and I'm asking you to walk with me on the bright side of the road. Okay, I was on a dark side as a widow in grief, or a widower in grief, and I was asking somebody, help me walk on the bright side of the road, So that's our song. Like if I come home tonight and I just have that on my phone when I walk through the front door, and Van Morrison's singing about the bright side of the road, it's going to do something to her that not hearing that song wouldn't do. She's going to know I walked in the door thinking of us, When it says that God sings over us, he has a song he's written that's yours. It's not my song. He has a song for me, but he has a your song, and it's your story involved in his story. He's saying, here's what we're going to do forever together. I love you. This is our song together. Isn't it amazing to realize that you wake up in the morning, you're going, good Lord, it's morning. And he's saying, good morning, it's the Lord, And so, and he's already been up. He never went to sleep. And he's been singing your song, waiting for you to get up so he can go, let's go. He loves you. He can hardly wait for the day to get going with you. So, let me just suggest to you that if you could even capture some of the times when those moments have happened and rehearse them, okay? So it's kind of like every once in a while, so like I don't have any pictures of my first wife in my house. It's not because my second wife's threatened. It's just that it's a new chapter, and she's my wife and needs to be seen as the wife in my home, okay? But on Thursday when I go to my daughter's house for Thanksgiving, there'll be pictures of me and my first wife all over the walls and all over the house, And it doesn't wreck Sue to see me with Jeannie. That's okay. But for them, they're going to retell stories. We're going to get together on Thursday, and we're going to retell stories of Mom. We're going to retell stories of when they were kids. We're going to rehearse the things that make us a Clem clan, And that's what God says. Let's rehearse what makes us together. Let's rehearse what makes us a people of God. Let's rehearse what makes you my child and me your dad. Let's rehearse that, because we'll go from a joy memory to rejoicing. We'll rejoice the heart so that it's full of joy again. And he invites us to be there. So what would it look like, if you were able to live that kind of life? That when you sing a song to God, you realize there's some truth in there. That's just the lyric. But there's also some poetry in how the words are arranged, and that's the mystery. And then it's put together into a melody, and that's the beauty. You realize that's what our relationship with God is. It's based on truth, and the reason it's so different is because it's mystery. You know, it's mystery that God can love you and love you and love you uniquely. I mean, all of us can look at the idea he forgives our sin, but each one of us have traveled a different road that needs forgiven, you know? And he writes that song with you. And he invites you to sing it with him so that we're rehearsing the truth, we're rehearsing the mystery, we're rehearsing the beauty that he sings over us. And he invites us into that song, okay? So we're going to close here, and I'm going to ask you to read this with me. And I've kind of rewritten the pronouns. So hopefully you won't think I mess with the Bible too much, okay? So let's go ahead and put that up. Okay, so the Lord, see how it says our God is in, he saves us rather than you, is the way it's written in the translation. So we're going to say this together out loud, okay? So I want you to say it as a declaration to everyone else in the room, and you hear everyone else telling you this truth, okay? The Lord our God is in our midst. The Mighty One saves us. He rejoices over us with gladness. He quiets us with his love. He rejoices over us with singing. What a different view than a God who's angry and you better not make him any madder. A God who is not flexible, and so you better dot your I's and cross your T's. What a difference to see. Hey, we have a musical artsy God. He sings over us. He creates beauty. He's writing a story about us. He's sharing a song with us. What a beautiful way. And so I want to suggest, what a great way to get ready for Thursday, that we would thank God, that he delights in us, that we would thank him for being mighty and saving us. So I would just like to lead you in thanksgiving. Father, thank you that we're not things to you. We're children, your children. And you have a plan for us. It's for good. And you are going to carry it on until it's complete. Thank you that that's not drudgery for you, it's delight. Thank you that we are not simply aware, someone you're aware of, but someone that you're in love with. I pray that that would radically change us, that we wouldn't feel comfortable just going out on the deck. We would want to be someone who comes back in the house to your applause. And I thank you that you pledged that in Jesus' name. Amen.
We are grateful for the Word of God and thrilled that you joined us today. We hope you experience God's presence and will continue to experience him throughout this week. If this is your first time checking out RCC Online, please text RCC New to 97000. And if you surrendered your life to Jesus and want to know more about walking with him, please text RCC Life to 97000. You can also stick around and chat with your online host. Have a great week.